Hello and welcome back. Let's do the preview for 3A. Who is in the population? And again, just as a reminder to get there, uh, probably pop into this window. Let's go to Learning Plan 1, Lesson 3, and 3A preview assignment. So let's look at the presentation. Let me size this guy up. Close enough. All right. So in this presentation, looks like we're going to be working with calculating percentages of wholes, how to do a percentage. And remember, a percentage is basically how many parts of the whole, and that's going to be a certain percentage, always on a base of 100. And of course, by using some math here, units cancel. So if I know what percentage I have, and I know either the whole, I can find the part, and vice versa. If I know the part, I can find the whole. We're also going to be looking at polls. Polls are very important. You'll be seeing a lot of them in the next anytime given year, especially in any kind of political events. And we're also going to look at why different polls covering the exact same question gives different results. So that will be in today's preview lecture. And of course, if I erase something too quickly, you can always rewind it and hit pause and copy it down in your notes if you so wish to. Okay, so let's see. The next few classes, our focus turns from discussion of individual data to looking at research. Research studies of samples from large populations. In these lessons, you will be asked to perform operations using percentages to calculate parts from wholes and obtain information about the studies. In addition, you'll be asked to identify the target population of a study. So let's begin. Yeah, I have to clean my board off. So let's see, review the prompt, answer your response. In a town in Texas with 2,700 residents, 19% identified themselves as conservative Republicans. So the question here is, how many of these residents, what residents? How many of the 2,700 residents, of which 19% of them identify as conservative Republicans? Remember what I said, R% or 100% equals the part over the whole. Now we're given the R, that's the 19. Now the question, we're given one other number, 2,700. Now the question here, you have to ask yourself, is that the part or is that the whole? Now since the percentage given basically tells you how many are conservative Republicans, the percent and what it's questioning or what it's asking for go with each other. Okay. So obviously then the 2,700 must be the whole then, which is the population, literally the population that we're looking at. And I'm just going to give this a variable, x. Okay, and I'm going to show a quick shorthand algebra here to find x. And what we're going to do is cross multiply on the diagonal where we have numbers. So basically this would be 19 times 2,700. And then we're going to move the vertical. So we'll do a division. Or so let's see, looks like our x will be 0.19 times 2,700, which should equal, okay, now get your calculator out and do the operation. What is 0.19 times 2,700? I got 513. So it appears that 513 residents in this town identify themselves as conservative Republicans. Let's see if we're correct. Yep, 513. Okay, let's do the next one. Here are 3 common polling companies. Gallup, Rasmussen, and Fox News. They all took their polls around the same time period. That Gallup and Rasmussen, the exact same time period. Fox a little earlier. Different samples. Gallup did 1,500 Americans. Rasmussen, same population size, but of likely voters. So obviously Gallup just went to a phone book and somehow through the statistical method called 1,500 Americans. Rasmussen probably got their hands on some voting information and identified 1,500 people who have voted. They're for likely voters. Fox News, slightly smaller sample, about 1/3, two-thirds the size. Again, went to the voting rolls and looked at people who are registered. Just because you're registered doesn't mean you go out and vote, though. So 3 different sample sizes, 2 different sample sizes, 3 different sampling populations. First question is, what were these polls trying to determine? Well, let's look at the title. Looks like they were trying to determine if the American population, we take a poll, we take a sample to extrapolate what the whole population is saying of President Obama's job approval. And of course, here's those who approved. Here are those that disapprove. And there's probably a third problem called third column, like no opinion probably. Okay, so what's the answer? Determine what percentage of U.S. citizens approve President jobs performance. Pretty close. All right. Next question. Fortunately, same thing. Now, which poll sample may have included people who are not registered to vote? Well, we know it can't be the Fox News because they only did registered voters. Now, here's are not registered. Likely voters, well, to be a likely voter, you have to be registered. So the answer has to be Gallup, because Gallup just somehow picked 1,500 Americans in general. So I'm going to say Gallup. Gallup may have included people who are not registered to vote. Now again, remember, Fox News were registered voters. The question was not registered. Likely voters, well, to vote, you got to be registered to be a likely voter. Next question. The Gallup and Rasmussen polls were conducted over the same time period. Why were the results different? Okay, so we're talking about Gallup, Rasmussen, same time period. %40 of Americans approved, 48% of likely voters approved, 53% of Americans disapproved, 50% of likely voters disapproved. So again, why do you think, what's the difference? Okay. So I want you to put me on pause and think about that for a little bit. If you need to go back and forth between the two slides, or rewind a little bit, or open a different window, this presentation, go back and forth a little bit and think about it. So what are some of the ideas you came up with? There's one possible explanation. Gallup and Rasmussen drew sample of people from different populations or pools. Which one's which again? Gallup was American. Okay. Oh, erased. So Gallup and Rasmussen drew its samples, different populations, where one of them, Gallup, may have been polling Americans who do not vote, so have a different attitude on the politics. That's possible. That's one possible explanation. It's probably Rasmussen wrong, but oh well. Looks like a name. Now let's see what the book says. Likely voters are a different population in a larger group. Americans, so the results can be different, and we kind of hinted that. The Gallup sample could include people who are not even registered to vote and may have a very different attitude from likely voters. We kind of said that too, so yeah, I think we covered the base. Okay, so how many participants in the Gallup poll approved of Obama's performance? Okay, so again, we need to look at Gallup, sample size, and approval. So the question is, of the 1,500 Americans sampled, 41% approved. So what is 41% of 1,500? So again, 41% over 100% equals some parts over 1,500 Americans. So let's see, again, cross multiply, divide. So our X appears to be 41 times 1,500 over 100 over 0.41 times 1,500. Which is 615. So 615 Americans approved of Obama's performance. Next question. Let's look at Rasmussen. Now, they're asked for how many disapproved of Obama's performance. So out of 1,500 likely voters polled, 50% of them disapproved. So again, 50 out of 100, which is a half when you reduce it, of X over 1,500. Again, X would be 1 times 1,500 over 2, or 750. 1,500 times a half, 750. So 750 people polled of likely voters disapproved of Obama's performance. And let's see, last one here is how many participants in the Fox poll approved of Obama's performance. So 42% of 1,006. There's a setup. So X would be 42 times 1,006 over 100, which is 0.42 times 1,006. And that gives us 422.52. And since we can't, half a person, round that to 423. So the answer would be 423 people approved on the Fox News out of 1,006 of President Obama's job performance. Okay, so what percentage of the Gallup poll sample is not recorded in the table? Why do you think that happened? Okay, now what's referring to here is somewhere along the line, everything has to add to account for everything. Now, if I add them up, well, here I have only 94%. Here I have 98%. And here I have 95%. So the question is, what happened to those people? Well, remember the point being shown was approved and disapproved. So there could be a third column of no opinion, don't have a strong feeling either way. I neither approve nor disapprove. But there's a percentage that didn't have a strong feeling either way, most likely. Let's find out. Okay. May not have had a strong feeling either way about Obama's job performance. No opinion. And then at the end, you take this poll about how confident you feel about things. For myself, how confident am I in calculating percentages of wholes? Extremely confident. Ooh, comment. Can recall, I basically always use the setup. A part of the whole. And of course, the percentage of wholes, which means this number is given and that number is given. So ultimately, what we end up doing is just multiplying those two numbers together and then dividing by 100. How confident are you that you can describe the purpose of a poll? I'm extremely confident. How confident that you can describe differences in samples? I'm extremely confident. And how confident are you that you can explain why different polls yield different results? And again, personally, I'm extremely confident. Hopefully you are too. And what's next? So now I complete the tutorial. There are a few questions to go through at the end, after this. And you should be able to calculate percentages based on a whole. Describe purpose of a poll. Describe differences in samples. And explain why different polls yield different results. Now let's go and do the questions. And that'll be the following video. To lesson 3A.